On this episode of Dear Dirt, I want to talk about how to rescue failed food plots. It is early July, and it's a little bit early for planting brassicas, but I've done it before and it does work. Normally they recommend waiting until the second half of July, but I've got rain coming, and in fact it's sprinkling right now. So it's a prime time to get this process started because you need moisture. This is one thing, when you're going in to fix these spots, unless you're going to drill the seed into the ground, you're going to have to rely on germination from rain, basically. So you need a fair amount of it in order to get the seed worked into the top layer of the dirt so that you get good seed to soil contact and you get germination and you get this process started. There's a lot of reasons why these spots fail. The one I'm looking at right here was a spot that got flooded out. I had planted soybeans in here, and there's a few beans in here still. That's why I'm not gonna tear this up and start over again, because there's probably a 50% stand or a 1/3 to 1/2 stand. So I'm just gonna broadcast brassicas into this and let this rain that's coming over the next couple of weeks hopefully work that seed into the top layer of the soil. There's other reasons why spots might fail. The most common one is the deer just hammer the whatever you planted, and I've had that happen quite a bit, especially with soybeans. Soybeans are the most common thing that I rescue on this farm. It seems like the deer just love to eat them when they're just getting started growing, and then you don't get anything. So you come back again in July, you spread your brassicas, and then depending on how that stand looks, you can come back again the end of August and you can spread something like a fall rye blend or a cereal grain blend that will grow really fast and fill in any spots. So don't feel bad if what you planted in the spring didn't work, because this whole process of rescuing the plots is pretty effective. There's another one I'm going to go to in a little bit that failed because of the overhanging tree vegetation. It just didn't get enough sunlight. The beans they're there, but I don't know, maybe I didn't get the rate right, or I got in a little bit too deep there or something, but the stand isn't very good. So that's another one that will make a lot of sense to rescue. I've had situations too where you've had drought. You planted in the spring with the best of intentions, everything looked good, then you didn't get any rain. Last summer was like that. Last summer was really bad for that because we had everything was perfect, we just didn't get any rain in June. So all the stuff that I planted basically failed. And again, I was able to rescue those spots and come up with some really, really nice food plots. I think it's a normal part of the process now. I don't know that I would plant beans, or even to a lesser extent maybe sorghum or corn, without the thought of coming back in and overseeding again late summer. You get that second crop, that can definitely pay off in the fall, but if you're doing the cereal grains, then you get a really nice green growth in the spring too. That's kind of how this process works. The key elements obviously are the seed blends. You want to make sure you've got something that's adapted to summer planting. You don't want to put in, you can plant clover now, but you're not going to see any benefit of it this year. You'll see it next spring. The cereal grains and the brassicas, those are going to be your two best choices. And by brassicas, I'm talking about radishes, turnips, beets, dwarf Essex rape, kale. If you look for a really good a brassica seed blend, that's what's going to be in those. And then the cereal grains, fall rye, winter wheat, those are the prime ones. Triticale is another option, but most of the co-ops don't carry that. So, the fall rye and the winter wheat are just fine. You have to fertilize this stuff. I usually wait until it comes up. I usually don't put the fertilizer down when I broadcast, just because I'm not sure if I'm going to get the rains, if I'm going to get this stuff to germinate. It's still a little bit questionable because, again, like I said, I'm putting it on top of the ground. So the conditions have to work well in order to get those small seeds worked down into the dirt. So I don't fertilize until I see this stuff germinate and start to grow. Then I come back and hit it. And both of those, let's say that your soil was set up well for soybeans, so your P and K should be fine, but brassicas and your cereal grains will want some nitrogen in order to grow well. So you can come back again and spread urea sometime after you see the germination from the stuff that you're spreading. It makes a lot of sense. So let me get to work here and get this one done, and I'll move on to the other spot and just show you that. And then I should be able to wrap this up in pretty short order. This one's small, 1/4 acre max. The other one is probably the same, 1/4 acre max. Sometimes you hit some bigger spots, but a lot of times you're just fixing a little corner here and a little corner there that just didn't work out. And you want to optimize. You want to get the most you can out of everything that you have available to you, whether it's a 1/4 acre food plot total or whether it's the corner of a 1 acre spot. Make the most of it, because every little bit that you can do to make your spots more attractive is going to pay off this fall. So I'll check back in again after I get this one planted, and then we'll close it up after that. Okay, I've got this spot planted, and let's go through the steps. You do have to do some weed control. I never really mentioned that in the first part, but that's why I like beans so much, because they're pretty easy to clean up. If they're chemical tolerant, you can just spray them, clean them up, and then when you spread your brassicas or your cereal grains into it, they're not going to have a whole lot of weed competition this fall. Most of the stuff that wants to germinate likes to do it in the spring. So you don't get tons of competition usually for these summer plantings. That's one of the nice things about it, is you can get a pretty clean setup without having to do a whole bunch of extra work. So you start out with cleaning it up, spraying it, and then you spread it. And I just use this over-the-shoulder bag spreader, and it's the calibration on these is kind of a learn as you go process. I mean, I've got a feel for it. You've got a certain bag size of seed, and it's supposed to cover a certain area, and roughly what that area is on the ground. Just by trial and error, you go back and forth a few times and try a couple different settings. I feel like you're better off always going on the conservative side, where so what if you have to walk that 1/4 acre twice? I'd rather have the rate set too low on the first pass than too high, and then you overseed, because that doesn't work either. These over-the-shoulder bag spreaders are super cheap. This process is really easy to do, and then, like I said, the final step is, once you get the plants to germinate and start growing, and you come back and hit it with some fertilizer. In most cases, that's going to be nitrogen. So hopefully you picked up a few things here. It's a pretty simple process, but it's one of the most valuable things you can do during this part of the summer, is get these spots really cleaned up, really shaped up, and ready for the fall. Well, I appreciate you joining me. I'll see you back here in another week for the next episode of HuntStand's Deer Dirt.